Thank you.
Okay, and we are live.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a Zoom meeting of the Town of Kent Planning Board Workshop for August 2021. We'll start off the meeting. Is there anyone? No, we don't need to do that, Paul. But thank you. Is there anyone from Friedman or Crossman property who has questions for the board or for the consultants?
Hi, my name is Carl Hansen with River Architects, representing Friedman Crossman.
Hi, I'm James Hartford, also from River Architects.
Oh.
Go ahead, Carl.
So are we starting at this point? Are we first on the agenda then, or?
You are.
Oh, okay, all right.
We're reading the wrong agenda, but go ahead. Go ahead.
So we have our project. Let me share my screen here. So our property is located at 5 China Circle Court. We have an existing home that we are proposing to demolish and build in its place a 2.5-story home with a new detached garage as well. We have submitted updated documents today with the erosion control plan and additional memo response document addressing all of the consultants' original questions or open items.
Great, thank you. John, do you want to tell the board or the applicant anything?
Well, yeah, I guess this particular project has been out of sync, I think since the beginning. Because quite honestly, what they did at the last meeting, if you recall, they made a submittal slightly before the meeting, which we had no chance to review.
Right.
They asked if we would review it by the consultants meeting, which we did. We provided them with our comments at the consultants meeting. And we issued a memo dated July 15th to them. We had the opportunity to go through it with them. And both Bruce and I, had comments at the time. I got a submittal today. Typically, we don't, between the workshop and the main meeting, we don't review updated submittals. So we're going to be a little bit out of sync again. But they had, for the most part, with their last submittal, addressed most of our concerns. What were remaining were some minor technical ones, some notes and other things. So I don't expect it to be an impediment, but it's just out of our sequence. I think the biggest issue that Bruce and I identified, and I don't know how it's going to be treated, is access for the site. And I'm not sure whether the building inspector has made his final determination yet or not. And since the building is being fully demolished, whether or not it needs to go to the ZBA for approval as not being on a town road. Bruce, I don't know if you've got anything else to say or weigh in.
Yeah, I heard back from Bill Walters, and basically this is a project where the access does not front on a town dedicated road. However, the entire community is in that condition and was constructed prior to the zoning requirements, and therefore is in compliance, and open development approval is not required. The other requirements with respect to setbacks, et cetera, are being met, the current setbacks. So the building inspectors determined, based upon our conversation, that a zoning variance or open development approval is not required.
Great. I'm glad that got clarified, because the last information I had was Bill was leaning the opposite direction. But
Right.
thank you.
Right. Well, we're going to get in writing from Bill, but that was our conversation. So that's where we are to date.
Okay.
Additionally, to note on that, I have included in the submission, the updated submission was an email from Bill confirming that, we met all the requirements and would not require going to zoning for review. So I have that included as well in the updated document submission.
Yeah, Bill's email at that time indicated that was the case. However, he was still questioning open development. So my conversation with Bill was that door has now been closed. However, we are waiting for that in writing from him.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you. I just want to apologize for the things being out of sync. We have been hounding our consultant for the updates for the site engineering, and I apologize that it took so long for us to get that from him, but we have it now, and we got it to you as quickly as we could, and sorry about that. It's not
All right.
how we want to be.
Bruce, do you have anything else to add?
No, I received the documents from the applicant, just like John did today at about 2:15 this afternoon. Quite honestly, I just did not have an opportunity to open up the attachments and have a look with respect to my most recent memo of July 20th. I'm hoping that all the T's, or at least the majority of the T's and I's, are crossed, but until I have a look at it, I really can't say at the present time.
Thank you. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for anybody?
Yeah, I would like to offer that we, quickly walk you through the updates that have been done, so that hopefully that if there are anything that stand out, I understand that you need a deeper review and research on things that may be flagged, but so that we can just help orient you in the updates since the last submission.
Thank you. Members, do you have anything you want to ask?
Nope.
I'm assuming there's no action we're going to take next week.
Uh-uh.
All right. Thank you. You have no further questions for us, gentlemen?
So no action next week. It would be helpful, at least if we can have a discussion in a week's time on where we stand, so that we can hopefully make some progress.
We certainly can.
Right.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing, I'll take a cursory review of the submission that we got today between now and next week. And if there's any glaring issues, I'll identify them, and then we can talk next steps at the meeting. Is that correct?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for Clearpool maintenance? John, do you want to talk about
I
this?
think you're muted, Jamie.
Yep, there we go. Hello,
There you
everyone.
are.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
I do.
Good. Let me just share my
Do you have
screen.
any questions for us?
No real questions. I think we met with Bruce and John, and I just wanted to see if the board had any further comments, that if you needed anything else before the meeting, and if there was anything that needed clarification. But I think we're on track, so just wanted to double check.
John, Bruce?
Jamie is correct. We did do a memo. I apologize for the hand notated quality of it, but they made a submission. We reviewed it. We had a meeting on the 22nd of July with the applicant and Jamie. And I think most of the issues we kind of worked through. I think Jamie would be able to address. Bruce and I did spend some time talking about the salt shed and the pavement area and drainage around that. And you were going to make some modifications, Jamie. I suspect you will be able to discuss them at the meeting and kind of put some closure to that. I don't think there was any major disagreement. I think we were all kind of on the same page, just trying to figure out how best to achieve it.
Yes. Yep, exactly. And I can walk you through those now, but given that we're having a public hearing, we can do it all at the same time. It's up to you guys.
Yeah, I think, Jamie, what we talked about was just trying to contain that salt a bit better if we could on the site. And we kind of came to the conclusion that a curbing detail might work well. I sent you the review memo a day or two ago for this meeting. So there's nothing more on that other than what we discussed at our consultants meeting. So I hope you got that. And if there's
did,
any
yep.
changes, if you have any questions, just please let me know.
No, I got it. I thank you very much. I think we're all set. Yeah, we were looking at doing like a little country curb on the downhill side of that asphalt pad that we're going to make a little bit bigger for the turnaround. So I think that'll help contain any salt that might leak out. So we'll be able to sweep that back up and get it back in the shed.
Great, great.
Great. And just so the board knows, all the other matters that we had brought up at the last meeting have been substantially resolved. So I think the long and short of it is, providing there are no surprises at the public hearing, and I gave up trying to figure that issue out years ago. So it would be my recommendation, so long as there are no major comments, that this would be moved to on an administrative track for completion.
Yeah,
So
I would agree if the board is comfortable and feels that the public has been adequately heard, you could certainly close the public hearing and send it to administrative.
Sounds good. Members, do you have any questions for anyone?
No,
Jamie, do you have any
All right.
further questions for us?
I do not. I think we're all set.
All right, then we'll
Forward
see
to
you
the-
next week.
Wrapped up. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Jamie. Good night.
Good night.
Is there anyone who's here with questions about Vitiello?
Yes, good evening. Eric Schlobel from Insight Engineering. I will call up and share my screen.
Forgive me for a minute, I'll be right back.
Hey, Eric, real quick, I have the screen sharing enabled, so whenever you're ready, go ahead, sir.
All right. Should be coming up. Is everybody seeing seeing the plan?
yes, sir.
So
You just want to give us a second?
should I wait for everyone to get back, or?
Yes, please.
Okay. So how is everyone doing tonight?
Very well. Eric, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just actually got back from 6 days up in Lake Champlain, Vermont. So feeling refreshed and, ready to get back at it. So
That's great. Did you take the ferry across to, what is it, Essex there in New York State?
I was actually the Plattsburgh to Grand Isle ferry.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, stayed on Grand Isle. The beautiful area up there. So,
It is. Yes.
Yes, just cold nights.
yeah, it was a little chilly.
No snow though, right?
No snow.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah, you have to wait till later in August for snow.
Well, that was, I'd also hiked Mount Mansfield, which is the highest peak in Vermont when I was up there. And it started to rain in the middle of that. And I kept looking, it's like, is it going to snow? But no snow.
Years and years and years ago, I did Boca Moonshine up there.
Okay.
That was a nice climb.
Yeah, I mean, the Green Mountain, it's part of the Green Mountains, I'm assuming.
No, it's on the New York State side,
Oh, it's okay.
just up above Port Kent.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the Adirondacks then.
we used to take the Port Kent Burlington ferry across, go shopping over in Burlington.
Cool.
We return to the town of Kent.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
certainly.
All right, so what, I guess I'll first just kind of walk through some of the changes since we were last before the board. The first one was, as you may recall, we were expanding this parking area in this area and pushing it into the slope a little bit. and doing some grading to expand this area. The Vitielos have decided that the existing parking as it is acceptable, and we're leaving that the way it is. We've also changed, this is a little additional turnaround and parking area over here, which last time we proposed as blacktop. We have changed that to reduce impacts to proposed grass pavers. The other item I want to bring up was we have proposed a 4-foot boulder wall in this location, which has we've been able to kind of reduce the grading in this area, as well as save a few trees, which we do show on the plan. We had previously with the grading taken out also this 10-inch tree, and I believe there might have been one additional tree. I know the last time we were before the board, we'd said that this shift in the garage was going to result in the removal of 3 more trees than the approved location. With these changes, we've actually reduced that to just 1 more tree. The other thing, as requested by the board and consultants, we did add this field change summary table, which we have been able to, on the approved plan, we had just under an acre disturbance, 0.99 acres. The current proposal has 0.87 acres. Basically held the impervious surfaces at the same level as previously approved. There was an increase of 7 square feet, which on a 35-acre lot is, virtually, zero. As I had said, we did increase the number of trees by 1, which was previously 3 when we were previously before the board. We have actually reduced the total cut for the project, so that I know there was a question of additional rock hammering based on us being able to reduce the cut. We don't anticipate any more rock hammering than was part of the approved plan. And then also the previous garage location, which is kind of ghosted in this location just for reference. This was on some slopes that were greater than 25%. Basically, I think 50% of the garage was proposed in an area of 25% or more slopes. So we, with the new location, there are still some 15 to 25% slopes, but we've greatly reduced, as noted in the table, the amount of disturbance on 25% or greater slopes. So with this information, I know we've basically kind of demonstrated that the change has similar impacts. I know Bruce we'd gotten Bruce's memo. I don't know, Bruce, if you'd like to talk about a few of those things at this point.
Sure. Well, Eric,
One second, Bruce, there was a 4-foot retaining wall.
Yes, basically to preserve. I know there was the tree on the tree plan in this location that we were able to save that tree with the 4-foot retaining wall. And then also,
I thought code was 36 in Kent.
that I thought it was 4 foot. Is that?
I think if it's over 3 foot, I believe you need a permit from the building inspector for it.
Okay, so that.
Yeah, I don't know if he needs a variant. I didn't know if there was a variance or a permit.
No, I believe it's a permit.
Okay.
well, actually, if it's over that amount, then you would need a structural calculation for the
Right.
building to permit.
Okay.
Okay, from an engineer. So, okay, Stephen, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, if you're still going.
No, that's it.
Okay, so Eric, could you just point out, please, the original garage location when this all first got started, which is kind
It
of right in
was
there. See
right in
that?
here, this
Yeah.
location that I'm circling now.
So the real, question that came up when John and I went out and looked at the property was that area of the original garage location that was approved by the planning board basically had managed lawn surface for the most part, a tree in the back of that area that needed certainly to be removed, and there was, a fair slope, but it was a lawn surface and had been managed for the most part. Where we are now with the garage location, however, is a forested area. It's just a native woodland with trees and an understory that has not been disturbed in recent times. And there is a large area of rock slab visible at the back area of the proposed limits of disturbance. So, we looked at it, Eric, and it was just, okay, so it seems there's more disturbance to areas that had not been previously disturbed. The original garage location was mostly managed. This is now forest. And so I guess the question for all of us came up is, what's the rationale and genesis for disturbing what is really a natural area and putting the garage in that location? The other things have to do with, the amount of cut and the number of trees to be removed. We also, John and I were looking at the proposed drainage and wondering if it's possible to have to revisit that, to maybe reduce the amount of piping going through the area across the driveway, which also is heavily wooded and has large hemlocks on it. So we kind of looked at it again, Eric, saying, hey, this seems like a different kind of disturbance and in a more natural area, and we're just wondering what the rationale was.
Well, so to get into, where the original garage location, it was certainly there were parts of it that were a wooded area, as noted, by the 8-inch hickory, 30-inch oak, 14-inch beech, the 18-inch oak. If you recall, the previous project did have a courtyard, a parking area in front of the garage that got into that same wooded area that the currently proposed garage location is, removing these trees in this area, these trees and some trees back up into the woods. So there is a little bit of lawn in that area. I don't think it's a substantial change. As for the drainage, initially the drainage had been proposed basically just to run down this side of the driveway, which what we've done now is basically we felt that drainage would have a negative impact on this 30-inch oak. So now we are proposing to cross the driveway to come into this area and then cross back to be able to avoid the root system as to the greatest extent practical of that 36-inch oak. So we did take preserving trees into the consideration as to where we ran the drainage. And I don't know that there's any benefit. I think we've picked a good location to.
Are you working with an arborist?
No, we do have landscape architects on staff at Insight, and I do consult them when we're looking at avoiding impacts to trees.
So Eric, thank you for that explanation, but could you just kind of fill the board in as to why your client wishes now to move it from the originally approved location?
And that was actually the response to John's comments from the last time. We did kind of provide that the shift was basically to maintain where the area outside of the family room, the new family room, is basically. They want to, I know, and Bruce, you had said, it's kind of a landscaped area. It's a nice looking area that the new view outside of the family room, they had looked at some of the renderings of where the garage was going to be, and felt that they really liked this area and the natural beauty of this area, and didn't want to put a garage in that area, which would be viewed outside the family room. So we did provide kind of that narrative in the response that we had provided with this submission.
Okay, so we had the original location, right? Then we had a shift of about 10 feet to reduce the obstructions of the view from the, I believe it was the family room that's proposed.
Right,
then
and
this-
that was moving it actually back into the hill, which would have increased cut where that second location was. It shifted
Right.
10 feet back into the hill.
So where was the very first location, Eric? Is that down a little bit lower, right? Down
This is the first and approved location.
Okay. And we had a shift of about 10 feet further from the proposed house addition. That was change one, and now we have this second change further down the driveway. Am I correct?
The first change was 10 feet, basically parallel to the house, kind of in the direction I'm moving my mouse now, further back into the
I
hill.
see.
So that really that second location would probably have the most impact from a standpoint of it was 10 feet back further. There would have been more cut, more tree removal for that. So I think from that second location and even from the approved location, that the area is something that the Vitiellos are very happy with, and also similar impacts to the approved location.
Okay, so John, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second. I still feel that there's more impacts, Eric. I understand what you're saying, and I hear you. I just feel that this area is a much more native and natural location than the prior two locations, and is going to disrupt or fragment that little forested area adjacent to the driveway, certainly more than the first two locations. So that's my overall sense, plus and minus. But John, I'll turn it over to you about the drainage and everything.
Yeah, I think most of my concerns have been resolved. I see what you're doing, but when Bruce and I were out there, if you careful, we're not convinced, I think both of us, by kind of seeing where your stakes were and where the existing vegetation is, that it almost seems more that you've gone a little bit too far into the woods on the opposite side of the driveway with what you're proposing. I think Bruce and I looked at it carefully, and I've got some photographs. I'd be more than happy to put them up so that people can see it. But a lot of the vegetation, and some of it's very ornamental and nice, it's not just the big trees, looks like it may be disrupted or negatively impacted by the drainage. So that's why we're kind of thinking that if you pulled it back and actually ran it along the edge of pavement, it might lessen your, because they have an edge of pavement, and then they have a very nice mulch bed, I guess it was, Bruce?
Yep.
About 1.5 to 2 foot on either side of the driveway. Then there's some open grass, and then right at the edge of that, there's trees. And so while I see what you're doing, moving it to the other side, we're kind of hoping that you could kind of compress the angles and basically work along the edge of pavement more than out into the lawn areas. Bruce and I also, in looking at the area where the garage is now proposed, there's a lot of various trees, but there's also a lot of rock. And we're not convinced that you're going to be able to pull out and deal with the rock without maybe affecting some of the trees that are relatively close to it. Because it is a pretty dense area, at least where you had staked out. And I'm assuming that what was staked out was where that garage is going to be. I don't know whether you know or not.
Yes, yeah, that area that was staked out, and we do show, right, and we've kind of taken that into account on the trees that are being removed. Right, obviously, I know we'd want to preserve trees to the greatest extent practical, but you're right, where there is going to be earthwork, where there is potential for rock removal, those trees would have to go because they would become potentially dangerous for the new structure. So we have taken that into account on the trees that we are showing to be removed. I think as for the distance off of the driveway, where that distance is kind of set up is we need to have, obviously, there's 4 overhead doors that cars need to access and maneuver in and out of. So really having a reduced distance.
And that's not what we're talking about. We're actually talking about the drainage that runs along there. Because on the opposite side of the street, you base on the opposite side of the driveway, you show a tree line, which in fact is not really the tree line. And, to show a couple of the larger hemlocks, there are some smaller hemlocks in through there, and there's some ornamental plants that are probably, Bruce, 3.5, 4 foot off the edge of pavement?
On this
Right on
side.
the
where
edge.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
So, and that's why I know on the approved plan, we had the drainage running down here, which we did feel would affect more trees on this side. So that's why we brought the drainage across to limit.
Understood, but
impacts on the
we're still thinking that drainage, because when you stand at this intersection of the driveway and then the one going down, there's vegetation almost right up to that corner. And where that ditch is going to be and where the pipe discharges, we're thinking everything in there gets blown out for quite a distance. Whereas if maybe you were to pipe it all the way and pull it right out along the edge of pavement, rather than try to create a swale, you might end up doing a better job. Just a thought, but.
Are you saying extending this pipe down further?
Well, where you show a discharge now, Eric, if you were to take that discharge and move it out a little closer to the edge of pavement and just run pipe all the way down through and then cross, we think you might end up lessening the impacts on vegetation. I'd be more than happy to show you a couple of pictures that we took that would, I think, support that, but it's up to you, Bruce. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think in summary, Eric, what we're trying to determine is, can you take the drainage piping and have it within the existing driveway footprint and have it then go out to that discharge point? The discharge point is fine where we looked at it, but if you can swing that using grade, it looks like it could be accomplished. The other thing too, real quickly, is that, again, getting back to the original garage location and the size of the building and three bedrooms, et cetera, I would think to ask the board if they would like to see an alternative footprint, that if this is the location of the proposed garage, it might result in smaller footprint or smaller reduction of impacts. In other words, where it was, again, was a managed area to a great extent. We're going into a natural area and what have you, and one of the remedies to reduce impacts to a natural area is that you reduce the size of the building. So it should be something the board is on the table as well.
It's a good idea, Bruce.
Like I said, we've pretty much held the impacts very similar to the approved location. So, I feel we've picked a location that.
I understand what you're saying, Eric, but based upon the inspection John and I had, it's kind of an apple and an orange. The original garage location up near the house, much more managed, one big tree coming down, yes, some steep slopes, etc. This proposed location, much more natural and native, more trees coming down, lots of rock. It seems to both John and I, John, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's much more impactful where you're currently proposing the garage.
I
know you don't agree.
I don't feel the same way. I feel we've done, a good job of limiting the impacts.
Maybe we should look at these. John, do you have the pictures you can bring up?
I should have, yeah.
Good luck.
Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, I can do it. I just need to get permission to share screen. Can
Yep. John, you should be good to go.
I? Okay. Can anyone see that?
You can see the index.
No. Sorry.
Just double click on those, John.
I did.
No,
You can't see it.
no.
So John, just click stop sharing and then go to reshare and you'll see it on the bottom of your screen. You should be able to share it then.
There we go. That's looking down the driveway. I'm assuming those stakes are, I think they're the building, Eric, is that true?
The orange stakes on the left, or the stakes with the orange flagging on the left, yes, that would be the proposed garage.
Okay. So let me go to the next one. That's looking the opposite direction. Can you all see that one?
Yes.
Oh, good. Trying to find the opposite side of the street. Give me a second here. There we go. That's the opposite side of the street from the building. And you see this turn here? That's where the driveway goes to the back. So that drainage, by our estimation, is coming right through this vicinity. So you can see why we had some concerns if everyone can see this. That's why we're kind of hoping to get the drainage to run a little more along the edge of the pavement. Are we off base here, Eric, or is this?
We can take a closer look at that. And I thought we had kind of we had shifted it, like I said, originally the entire drainage run was running down that side. We
Right,
shifted
and
across the street to limit
I'm
any
not-
impacts to trees in that location. But we can take a closer look at that.
I think the issue comes about when I'm not sure the original drainage was, I wasn't involved in the original project. I'm not sure the original drainage probably had some issues to begin with, but you can see that area is pretty well wooded. I think these are the large trees that you identify, but there are some smaller ones along through there that, you know, again, I think you did the right thing moving it across the street. I think to continue it along, you know, to go back across the street and then run along the edge of the pavement and then perhaps across this road a little closer to the intersection in an area that you're going to disturb anyway, might lessen the impacts back in this vicinity for all the trees.
Yeah, I think we we can sharpen the pencil, take a closer look at that, see if there's any. And I guess it was partially my misunderstanding. I thought you wanted it shifted back to that side of the street, but I think you're saying actually bringing it down further to avoid that
Yes.
side of the street as much as practical.
To avoid that street more than you can.
That was my misunderstanding a little bit. So
Not a problem.
we can take a closer look at that.
That's why the photos sometimes make a difference.
Yep.
So.
John, do you happen to have a photo of the originally proposed location?
No,
floating around
I
in
thought
there?
I did, Bruce, and I can't seem to locate it.
Gotcha. Okay. This is obviously a modest project. However, there seems to be a lot of movement and adjusting of this project. And at a certain point in time, it may be prudent for the board to consider to go out themselves and look at the site. Certainly not collectively, but less than quorum wise. So you can just get an idea and make your own determination about the impacts that are associated with the current location. But we could probably find and get the board by the next meeting some photographs that would demonstrate where the original location, approved location was and what that looks like, and then where the proposed new location, what that looks like. And that might obviate the need to go out and the board can make a better determination as to exactly what's happening out there. But I do think that it's important we get enough information to the board so you can choose for yourselves as to whether or not you feel this new location is reasonably located. Okay.
Bruce, do you think that making a site visit would help us understand the problems of the site?
I think that ultimately that would be a really great thing to do, Phil, but perhaps if we get the photographs needed to demonstrate that by Thursday, then the board could look at the photographs at the meeting and then decide, no, we've got enough information here, or no, we'd like to adjourn and go to a site visit. And that would be up to you folks.
And I do think overall, the technical issues are relatively minor. If you're all comfortable with that location and we can get the drainage figured out, Bruce and I were hoping we were missing something, just being quite honest with you. But, the more we spent out there and more we tried to scale things off and put it in, the more it seemed like it needed some tweaking. And, but if you can see your way clear, I don't have a problem in moving this to administratively once you make your final decision. I think it's clean enough and neat enough to do that. But the key is, like Bruce said, making sure it's in the right spot.
Right. I think, again, it's a modest project, as I said earlier, but the fact is that there's a change from what it would appear, at least to me, to be a relatively managed area closer to the existing building out to a less managed, more native and forested area that will require greater environmental impacts moving forward. So I think once that's established, where the board is comfortable with that, John's right. It's just, see if Eric, you can tweak that drainage a little bit and move this thing along. But I think we need to make a determination as to if the board is comfortable with this new location based upon its impacts.
And I just want to kind of go from an overall picture, right? This is a single family residence. It is a garage with an apartment that when their kids come to visit, they want a place for them to stay, but still it's used primarily as a single family residence. It is a 35-acre lot. We're disturbing less than an acre. And there are also there's a total of 3 parcels with 100 acres out here, and we're talking about disturbing 1 acre for a single family residence and addition and a garage. Just from a grand scheme of things, this is a fairly small project when you look at the scope of the property and the fact that it's a single family home. So I just wanted to kind of bring that back up, that we're not looking at a commercial property that's got 20 acres of disturbance or 5 acres of disturbance. It's less than an acre of disturbance. It's a single family home. It is a garage for a detached garage for a single family home. So in the grand scheme of things, we've looked to limit impacts. I know we were before the board and reduced impacts from the last time we were before the board. And, I think the location is a good location. It's a location that works for the homeowners. And that's, I just wanted to share that.
That's true. Eric, how many trees do you feel are going to be, or do you know that are going to be cut down on the entire project with the septic system and also the drainage and the septic connections from the garage and the house up to the new system?
Right. I mean, those haven't changed. There are some additional trees, right? We were talking basically about the trees for the garage. There are some additional trees, but that hasn't changed.
Right, but I think it's, to be fair, I think that if you're asking the board to look at the collective project, they should look at the entire collective project. And also, I wanted to ask you, the area that had been disturbed at the back of the property, which initially was soil, and we discussed how that would be treated under the stormwater management calculations. Has that now been removed from the calculations? Is it stable?
Right, there was an area that had some storm damage that had some disturbed soils. That area has been sodded. And I know as part of the initial project, it was discussed that if that project was done, if the house and garage project was going to be simultaneous, that would be part of the limits of disturbance. At this point, that area has been restored and is not part of the current limits of disturbance, which is, partially where the reduced limits of disturbance are, because that area is no longer going to be disturbed at the same time as the project.
So
Will
John,
you be replacing any of the trees?
At this point, we have not shown anything on the plans for replacing any trees. I can discuss that with the applicant.
So John, just to fill you in the board, what Eric and I are discussing is that when Julie and I went out there to originally look back in the fall on this project, an area in the back of the property, a substantial area was exposed soil. And there was discussion about how to deal with that with respect to calculating the total area of disturbance relative to stormwater requirements, etc. So what's happened, and just to be clear, is that area, Eric, you're saying, has been sodded and thereby greater than 80% vegetatively stable and is no longer included in the total calculation of land disturbance. Is that, do I got that right?
Yes, and that had been discussed with Julie as to how we were treating that area. Yes.
But there was that disturbance, the area for the septic system, the area for the garage, etc. So there is, some amount of work being done on the site. It is, again, a modest project. I'll say it 3 times. But at the same point in time, I think it still bears evaluation to ensure that the board is maximizing the opportunity for the property owner to enjoy his property, at the same time preserve the natural resources to the degree that is possible. So my suggestion is, let's look at some photographs next week. The board can determine if it's adequate to make that determination, or if they feel they need to go out and have a look for themselves.
Members, do you have any questions?
Far so good.
No questions.
And Eric, if you want to send a sketch in advance of the next meeting of maybe modifying that drainage, I'd be more than happy to look at it and make sure that we're, because as Bruce said, all in all, this is a modest project, and both of us are looking to move it ahead. It's been stalled on, this dime for quite a while, and quite honestly, we're at the near end, and I mean, it was a wake-up call for me, not having been at the site to see, how nicely the site is maintained and preserved. I mean, and all we were doing in looking at things and walking through it was attempting to basically maximize what those folks have out there, because they got a nice piece of property. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's gorgeous.
I know, and they're very intent on keeping the natural beauty and making the addition as well as the garage work with the natural beauty. And that was a large part of the selected location. So.
Okay, so.
Great.
We
Okay.
will do our best to move it along. Bruce, are you going to go down and take photographs, or?
Yeah, I think that might be the case. I might have some in stock that I took earlier.
Okay.
I'm going to check that out. But I think what we could do is just to make sure we have location photos of the originally approved area of the garage and some clear photos of where the garage is proposed, and maybe a couple of additional drainage photos. So if we have that in stock, that'd be great. If not, I can shoot out there and take a picture.
Okay, great.
All right.
Eric, do you have any other questions for us?
Nope, that's all. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you.
You too,
Eric.
thank you.
Take care.
Gentlemen, are you from JPE Auto? You're muted. Speak.
Yes, hello, everyone.
Do you have questions for the board or our consultants? Welcome.
Welcome. After our last meeting, we had a conference with the consultants, discussed the comments, discussed the site plan. Subsequently, we sent an update via email to the consultants of some of the additional information we gathered, which included establishing that DEP approval is not required. It's connected to public sewer. We've identified where the well is on the property for the water supply. We provided a.
Excuse me, Joe, may I stop you for just a second?
Yeah.
When did that information come through? I didn't see that stuff yet.
And to me either, Joe.
We sent an email on Thursday, the 29th, an update.
Okay, we're gonna have to look for that.
I'm gonna have to look for it because I never got it.
Yep.
Yeah, me too, Joe.
Okay.
My apologies. But I did, because I was in the process of reviewing your submittal at that point in time. So sorry, go back ahead, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So in that update, as I said, we mentioned that we confirmed with the building inspector that it is not in a DMSA, so it does not require DEP approval. We confirmed with the building inspector that it's connected to the sewer. It is not connected to a public water supply. It's a well, which we identified on the site. We attached the tank closure report from the DEC. Since then, we've gotten some additional information. We've got a preliminary design for the signage, and I believe that's as far as we are right now. The two remaining items, as far as paperwork goes, is the owner cannot find it. The property owner cannot find a deed for the property, so I think we're going to have to go to the county clerk's office and get a copy. And we're waiting for the authorization from the client, from the property owner, I'm sorry, to sign the authorization form, which I spoke to her at the end of the day today, and she was going to overnight that to me. So we'll have that in hand also. Otherwise, we received the memos from Bruce today. We received a memo, I'm sorry, the other day from Bruce and from Liz. And that's where we're at. And we're looking forward to being back on next week's agenda, and we'll address all those items then.
Great, thank you. Bruce, John, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. I have a memo also. I issued it in draft form, Joe. I'll issue it after this meeting. But couple things I think that the board needs to be aware of. One of our original comments, and it's kind of an odd one, and I think some of the board members caught it. The back third of this property is used by an adjacent neighbor. It's not part of the current proposal. It's separate and distinct. So we had talked last time that maybe the best way to do it is to provide a note. So what I took the liberty of kind of drafting a note that kind of addressed it. And the note basically says the facilities and land use on deed parcels C and D, which are the two parcels in the back, they're reflected on Joe's plan set. Are being used by RINI, R-I-N-I, and are existing and not part of this application. The JPE Auto Repair Corp. application, the approval related thereto applies to deed parcel B only. No approval has been sought, nor is any approval granted for deed parcels C and D. The current use of these parcels is not approved. Any changes to parcels C and D or the current RINI use shall be subject to future application, the receipt of appropriate land use approval related to their action. I'm trying to separate the two because basically they're all on the same property, but the folks for JPE are not having anything to do with that back portion of the property, but it's in use. So this was my way of saying, we acknowledge that it's not approved, but if anything changes, they got to come back and get an approval. I hope that is.
We have no issue with that, putting a note like that on the plan.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention to the board, at our request, the engineer did a nice job. He moved the handicap parking spaces to the rear, and he moved most of the parking spaces to the rear, kind of leaving the front open to kind of address some of the board's concerns about maneuvering and backing out into traffic. He made it a lot easier to use the front of the building by moving things to the back. When you have handicap parking spaces, you need asphalt pavement. He's proposing to pave a small portion of the asphalt to accommodate the handicap, as well as an area, I imagine, for these folks to use for deliveries and other things, so they deliver on a hard surface. The way we're looking at this, that back portion of the site is well compacted and well worn gravel. It is acting for all intents and purposes as impervious surface. The fact that it's being paved today really doesn't change any of the characteristics related thereto, and it's really nothing more than in my mind, a substitution or a repair of an existing impervious surface. So for the purposes of this application, I don't consider it a disturbance, and I don't think it needs to be addressed in that manner. And other than that, I'll make sure Joe gets a copy of my comments.
All right, and
John. Bruce?
And within that context, the entire, let's say, 1/3 front of the site, as per the town code requirements and definitions of wetlands, has hydric soils on it. But from a practical perspective, when you go out and look at the property, it is entirely compacted and virtually impervious, item 4, practically impervious, item 4. There is no wetland vegetation. There is no evidence other than on the soil maps that it operates and functions as a wetland system. What the applicant is suggesting, and again, to reiterate what John said, is to pave a small area using pavement, which is an impervious surface, to put on top of an existing impervious surface. Looking at the code, that does not constitute a disturbance or an item which would require a town wetland permit, and therefore a wetland permit is not required for that action.
Thank you, Bruce. Members, you have any questions?
No.
Hey, Bruce, can I ask you, this is my ignorance because I haven't been around long enough. What's the next step on something like this? Does this need to have a public hearing?
I think that, yes, it would need a public hearing. The board, if they're comfortable, can schedule a public hearing at the meeting this coming Thursday. And then we can schedule it for the meetings in September and move forward.
From my standpoint, and I looked at Liz's comments, and I think you did as well, I don't think there's any major hiccups here, folks. So in the
No.
spirit of trying to move this ahead, I would suggest it might be worth considering scheduling the public hearing at the next meeting.
Yeah. I don't see, Joe, you've got our memos. Certainly you can respond. Actually, John and I apparently didn't get that July 29th memo, which has a lot of the answers already. So sounds like you've gotten, rounding the bend here and what have you. And it looks like if the board feels comfortable, a public hearing can be scheduled for September.
Joe,
One other
maybe
thing,
you send those things just to make sure we get them.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Another thing I need to tell you guys, I think Liz said, and I agree with her, because it's on a state road, I have to take a copy of the drawings over to the Putnam Planning as well for them to review.
Okay, good.
Right. You need a 239M referral on the state and county roads.
Yeah,
Joe, do you do that or would the town do that?
We'd be glad to do that if you give us the information of where it has to get to, we'll take
yeah. Yeah, I'll be happy to do that, okay?
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you both.
Joe, do you have any further questions for us?
No. So, I mean, should we, at this point, attempt to address these final points, like in Liz's comments or whatnot, for next week's meeting? Is it?
I think it would be to your advantage to verbally walk through them at the course of the meeting, Joe. Yes,
Okay.
don't make a submittal between now and then. But if you could, as the chairman suggested, I don't know if you heard him, resend all that 729 stuff to Bruce and myself so we will make an effort to review it before the meeting, and to the extent that it modifies our comments that you have in your hands, we'll let the board know.
Okay.
I got a quick question. When we did a few months back, we did the change of use for the, I think it was for the DEC to move within a building from upstairs to downstairs in an office building. It was a change of use. Did we have to do a public hearing for that? Because I'm wondering if we really need a public hearing on this. We're not constructing anything. We're not doing anything. They're just changing the use of the building.
Right. Yeah, and I see your point, Steve. I think what we can do between now and next week is speak with Liz and also check the code, because sometimes the code will have this word shall, meaning that a public hearing shall be conducted, etc. And oftentimes that shall is not there. So I think we'll look to see if in all instances for these change of use, the word shall conduct a public hearing is there or not. And we'll let you know next week.
Okay. Yeah, just because I think if we can do that, we can save them a month.
Okay.
Sure.
I just
You
took a quick
shall
look
do
at,
that.
I just took a quick look at
We're doing our
Liz's
best to do
memo.
anything we can for these gentlemen.
I just took a quick look at Liz's memo. She seems to suggest that the 239M referral and the public hearing are requirements, but we'll verify that, sir, and make sure you have the proper answer at the next meeting.
We'll give you the code citation if necessary. Okay.
And the waiver form.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, we're all set.
Thanks, folks.
We'll see you next
All
week.
right, thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Is there anyone here from Joe's Quick Mart?
Yes, Brian O'Connor of Froling Sign.
Welcome. Do you have any questions for us?
No, very nice to meet you. No, I don't. This is a relatively simple application. Speedway Market is just changing the name, and it's just being rebranded as Joe's Quick Marts. We're just changing the vinyl that's on the front elevation entrance to the market itself, and then also just changing to sign panels on the pylon sign, the existing freestanding sign. There's no other changes to the freestanding sign. It's just changing the inserts.
Thank you. John or Bruce, you have anything to add?
This was totally on Liz.
Yep.
She actually, I think, met with you, sir, at the time of the consultants meeting, or was on Zoom with you.
Last month.
Unfortunately, I missed that meeting.
Okay.
I was traveling and I missed that meeting. So
I think Liz's intent was to handle this quite simply, and I think it was going to be the subject of a verbal resolution, but we will need to confirm that with Liz, and we'll make sure that she's prepared at the next meeting. I think it was a relatively de minimis action, if I recall.
You're not changing the size of the sign, you're not putting any lighting in, you're just basically changing the lettering, and that's about it, right? You're not posting it in a different location. Should be
No.
very cut and dry.
So
So
it should be
we'll-
pretty much a copy and paste of what happened with the 7-Eleven.
yeah, I think so, Steve. I think so. So we'll have get Liz that information and make sure we're in good shape for next meeting.
Okay, great. So I would be attending next Thursday's meeting?
Please.
Yes, sir.
If you can,
Okay.
yes.
Members, do you have any questions? Then you're good to go, Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
And
Thank you.
too.
Good night.
Thank you. And who's working below the line tonight?
Let me see here.
Well, there's two on my agenda that are above the line that probably.
Yeah, you have an,
Go ahead, Vera.
yeah, Nunciata is one of them.
All right.
Right. So that's still above the line, Vera?
Yeah,
Okay. John, you want to lead off on that one?
Yeah, give me a second to pull that file, if you will.
Okay. Let's see what I got here. Do.
The beauty of working out of my own office is I can put my hands on things relatively easily. This is apparently an oldie.
Back in the fall.
Has been around for a while, and it looks like they want to put a single family home on a rather tough piece of property.
Yep.
They made a recent submittal. I issued a comment memo for the board's consideration. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. There's some peculiarities, shall one say, to this application. Peculiarity number one is there's a request in a file. They were going to request a tree waiver, then they didn't request a tree waiver. Bruce asked for a tree survey. They said, yeah, we're going to give it. Now they're asking for a waiver. It's a conundrum. There's
Yeah.
an interesting feature that runs through the middle of the site. It's a drainage ditch. And they provided an updated survey. They didn't kind of provide a copy of the deed. And what the updated survey has is a note which says, hey, this intermittent drainage ditch comes with a 25-foot easement, which is not shown. And it kind of gives the original owner or the adjacent owner the right to make modifications and changes according to filed map 2248A. I can't seem to find a copy of that filed map. It would be nice to know what's going on because they intend to pipe this, a portion of this under their driveway. It's a difficult site, and there's a lot of issues that need to be dealt with. And I don't know if there's any real rush to go through this. Your thoughts, Bruce?
Yeah, Julie and I went out and looked at the property in the fall. It's just, coming up from the road, it's a bit steep. You have a plateau. Then there's this intermittent ditch, which I spent a lot of time with, but it does not meet the definition of a watercourse for the Town of Kent Town Code. From that point, it goes up into a significant area of rock outcropping, and then up to a flatter area as well. There are a substantial number of mature trees. So the second thing I looked at, in addition to whether or not we had wetlands out there, was the request for a tree survey. And my recommendation to the board is that you do indeed request a tree survey. There's just a lot of potential issues if excessive trees are going to be coming down on that site. Some additional oddities to add to John is that the deed talks about a 4.24% interest in a lot number 9, and then also identifies the site as section 21, block 1, lot 11, and section 21.13, block 1, lot 19. So somewhere there's 2 tax maps unless they've been, or 2 tax lots, excuse me, unless they've been merged. They should be merged if they're substandard. I just don't know. There's not enough information. And kind of in concert with that, the applicant has indicated that the lot frontage and lot width does not comply with zoning requirements, and that appears to be true. But again, I don't know if these lots are merged or what the situation is. So this needs to be referred to Bill Walters and have him have a look at it with respect to that as well. The driveway drainage, post-construction will go down into that intermittent water course, which flows off site. The applicant is not proposing any stormwater attenuation post-construction, so there's concerns about drainage and pollutant loading going into that water course and going off-site, as well as going down to the road and creating icing conditions, and nothing's been addressed. There's also a Class C stream in the area called Bailey Brook, and I've asked the applicant to reflect that on the plans, as well as some sun soils, which are wetland soils pursuant to our town code, that apparently are off-site, but it's possible that the 100-foot buffer from those areas would reflect in part onto the subject site. And so we'd like to see that as well. Then there's some associated EAF type of information. John mentioned information is required about the drainage ditch easement. I don't see anything on that either. So there's a lot of odds and ends. It does not have Board of Health approval for well or septic system yet. So there's a ways to go on this for sure.
Thank you, Bruce.
And I think the other thing that's kind of peculiar, as Bruce said, they've got a driveway that has a profile slope of 15%. They're probably going to need a waiver from you folks. But if you look carefully at the driveway profile and the grading plan, they don't match. And the way they've got the driveway graded, Bruce is right, some of the drainage goes to the intermittent stream, but a lot of the other drainage runs past it and ends up ponding in the intersection, because they put a low point about 40 foot back from the edge of pavement, but you can't get the water out of there to go either direction. So there's a bunch of things going on, and I copied the highway superintendent. And I think once the engineer gets his profile and everything squared away, I think it's going to be one of those situations where we need to go out and conduct a review with the highway superintendent, because I think we have the potential for some issues down at the road.
Didn't he send us a memo or something? Just
Yeah,
recently?
he said he would be happy to go out and have a
He
look.
said he would be happy to go out, so you're absolutely
Yep.
correct.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't be here. So I copied him. He responded right away. He's available for whatever we need, but I don't want to waste his time until the engineer's figured out what he wants to do down here.
Absolutely. What else is above the line in your version?
In my version, above the line, which I think was Vera's intent to move below the line, is Ranieri. If you remember, last meeting, Bob Bradley appeared on behalf of Ranieri and asked that it be deferred to this month because Jack was away on vacation, your engineer, Jack Carell. We've got no updates. We issued our comments. I think he was provided to them, and Jack has not weighed in. So we have no updated information. We have no anything. So my estimation is it should probably go below the line, sir.
Yeah. I think the only change was, John, you and I went out and did a site inspection, correct?
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
it made the view worse than the pay-per-view. Let's put it that way.
Well, then which one of you gentlemen wants to dive below the line
Well,
and get wet?
I can do that.
go ahead, John.
The first two, Liz, if you recall, a couple meetings ago, Liz had circulated a draft of the stipulation in the
Right.
Holly property Winkler Farm matter. We received a copy of that draft back from Bob Bradley, who was representing those folks, and he made some suggested revisions. I took the
John,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but is this something that really should be in closed session with the planning board, and that it's a legal document and a stipulation that's currently under negotiations?
I don't think so. I think it was issued to the public. So once it goes to once it goes to Winkler, it's a public document. So
All right, if the board's comfortable, go ahead.
I leave it up to the board. But anyway, the stipulation has been amended by the applicant. I reviewed it and made some clarifications because I don't think his amendment was effectively correct and the math was kind of all goofed up. But it's been circulated around and it needs comment. And I would suggest that you all probably need to take a look at it and see if you're comfortable with it. All the applicant really did was change the numbers.
It still has to go to the town board.
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
I think the challenge here is that the numbers have been changing, and yet the board doesn't have a site plan which would validate the numbers in question.
Yeah.
In other words, you can say that a site can support any number of buildings and septic systems, but until the work is done to document that that can be done, it's really just a number on a piece of paper. And that's really all the board has it right now. So I think we need to also bring Jeff back into the discussion here, just to kind of make sure all the eggs are in a row.
All right. Sounds good.
The next one is Zucker, 12 Woodchuck Court. Bruce and I were out there. We did a final inspection. I issued a memo, basically said they're ready to go. We needed some additional documentation in the form of their engineer's certification and an as-built plan that showed the minor modifications and that everything was constructed according to the approved plan. We recently received that. The engineer's certification as-built effectively came in July 27th. This did not require coverage under the stormwater permit, so the engineer's certification serves as the project closure document. So as of July 27th of this year, based on the certification from their engineer, the project and the permit is now closed and the 2-year window starts to run. So from now on, until the expiry of a 2-year waiting period, there's nothing further anyone needs to do.
And in the past, it's established that the grass is growing out there. When John and I were out there, the board has entertained upon application by the owner to have the release of the bond materials once a winter season has been gone through and spring, it's reestablished that there's at least 80% grass growth. So that's an option that the board consider if the applicant so chooses to do that.
But based on our records, just so you know, they weren't fully buttoned up at the conclusion of last fall.
Right.
So this winter doesn't count. The only way to entertain this would be next spring.
No, they're starting from now.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Kent Corp, Mazada, and GADF, they were Liz issues, and I think she was getting ready to issue some memos. I don't know whether she has yet or not on those, because I think they were both ready for final.
Okay.
My understanding is we've got no update on Route 52 development. It's
Right.
still in the seeker process. Kent
They're just-
self-storage.
Yeah, they're just kind of dormant right now, John.
Yep. Kent self-storage, I believe is.
But I want to just tell you
Yeah,
guys,
Vera.
I got today, Rich Vibrock came in and gave me a letter, which I'll copy and send to you guys. In the meantime, he's not really doing anything there yet, but in the meantime, he wants to know if he can cut down some trees and clean it up a little bit, mow the lawn and stuff. But I'll send you guys the letter and you can decide, because he said that Bill Walters told him that he can't, which, Bill's probably right, but I told him I would mention it to you guys.
Great. Thanks, Vera.
Yeah, we
Okay.
certainly would need more information on that, Vera.
Yep.
Okay.
Kent
Again, like I
self-storage.
said, sorry. Okay.
Oh, no. Kent self-storage, I think there's nothing to do. Rodriguez, they were going to submit something. We haven't seen anything yet. Have we, Vera?
Not for a long, long time.
No, nothing.
And the Kent
And every
mining law.
time, every
Excuse me.
time I contact them, they say, oh yeah, we're gonna do that next month, but I don't know what they're doing. I'll send them a note again though.
I guess my recommendation would be, and I don't know what your standards are here, but is.
We have no standards.
Give them one more month, and if nothing, it drops and they start from scratch.
Yeah, well,
Right.
what what I think we've done in the past is that the board has considered Vera to send out a memo indicating you've been on the agenda, do you wish to be taken
Right.
off? And the people have the option to say, yes, we do, or if they don't respond in 30 days, they're taken off. But if they do say they still intend to be on the agenda, then we keep them on. That's just the way it's been.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And what's up, the mining law, John?
The mining law, the supervisor had contacted each of us and asked for some additional information and a revisit of our proposal. We've all responded and we're waiting to hear back from the supervisor as to notice to proceed.
Very good. Thank you. Members, do you have any questions? Vera, do you have anything you want to ask or tell us?
No, I don't right now.
No, and Bruce, thanks for that click beetle.
Hey, you're welcome, man. They're very cool, aren't they?
That thing tried to attack me. I found out that why I pissed it off because I was actually doing some firewood, and apparently they put their larvae into the wood, and I apparently pissed it off.
Yeah, they can give you a little squeeze if you're not careful.
Yeah, he was trying.
Is it Paul or Ringo? All right, enough of all of this. Gentlemen and Vera, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Great week.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good
See
night,
you all next
everybody.
week. Hey, a quick
Paul,
question,
thank
Vera.
you.
Is next week in person or is next week Zoom?
I think in person.
All right, great.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
Thank you
right.
all.
See you all. Thank you again.
Hey, thanks for the help, guys. Bruce and John and Vera.
Okay, you too.
Good night, people.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
right. No
Thanks,
problem. Good
Paul.
night, guys. Thank you.